Two championship away trips, 2 points for Norwich City as their push for the playoffs continues. Welcome to Stoke. It's not as sunny as it was earlier. If you watched the team news video, it has clouded over. The rain has started coming down, and Norwich City have drawn 0-0 here with Alex Neil's in-form side. And it was, to be honest, not the most eventful game in the world. It was one where Norwich City have a lot to thank Angus Gunn for, as to coming out with a point. And it's an interesting one to deconstruct and to analyse, because I feel like actually how you view that point may depend on how full your glass is. And particularly given the mood from Wednesday night, that probably means that a lot of people are looking at this with a somewhat empty glass. And I can understand that. I'm going to try and play devil's advocate a little bit in this. I'm going to try and give my view on why Norwich went down the route that they did today, probably what it means to the bigger picture. But what I will start by saying is this is a team that needs a break and needs an international break, and an international break that has come at the right time. And even though I'm not a massive fan of it, you're not a massive fan of it, the players aren't massive fans of it, David Wagner's probably not a massive fan of it, it feels like a good time for Norwich City to take stock, to focus almost after what has been a really tough week. Three games in 6 days is tough by any measure. 2 games in 3 days, even tougher. They've obviously stayed up north. I'm not making excuses for them. I'm simply laying out the facts. These are the facts. They have got injuries, although the starting 11 was pretty strong today by all accounts. And they put a lot of load into legs. That said, this will feel like a missed opportunity, particularly given what happened on Wednesday night, which was a missed opportunity, especially given the fact Millwall have lost to Huddersfield today. Neil Warnock, by the way, continuing to do it. But I don't think it has materially changed anything that much. David Wagner admitted after the game that automatic promotion has gone. I mean, to be honest, I think we were saying that in December. And they are 3 points from the playoffs. So by that logic, and before we apply any context and any feeling and any emotive kind of response to this team, that's the facts. 8 games left of this season. Norwich City are still well in the hunt for a playoff place. Now, you and I know, having watched them, having experienced what we've experienced, having lived through this season, that they probably feel a little bit further, or quite a bit further away than 3 points at this moment in time. And this team probably hasn't shown, certainly in my view, and I said this last week, I've seen probably one performance all season, certainly one performance since this year, or in this year, that has made me feel that top 6 was a possibility. And every time you see one, it's kind of backed up by one that suggests it's not a possibility, and that's kind of been the issue. But it's a group that I think, as someone has commented already, as they're watching along live, a group that doesn't necessarily feel like it will benefit from promotion, a group that kind of feels like it's come to an end of a cycle. We've been here before. We've been through all of these narratives before. In terms of this game, Norwich City made 2 changes. Temu Pukki came in and Christos Solis started. So if we start with those 2 really, and Christos Solis in particular, felt like kind of a big opportunity for him today, and probably another one squandered in terms of his Norwich City career. And there's been kind of a cautious approach to building up his fitness and managing his load and trying to get him back up to speed after he came back from Twente in January. He played one wonderful pass through to Josh Sargent for the opening chance of the game, but thereafter fell very, very flat and really struggled to get into the contest. Norwich played what was, by all accounts, a 4-4-2. Early on, they kind of showed signs of going to a 3-5-2 out of possession. That kind of only happened in a couple of instances really early on, and then it was a bit more of a flat back 4 and 2 banks of 4, which tactically in football is a pretty solid, pretty robust system, intent on kind of defending central spaces and allowing players to kind of suffocate space and suck space in. Norwich played Max Aarons as a right winger, Jakob Sorensen as a right back. That felt like a method to try and halt Stoke's threat on the right hand side, or on the left hand side. Sorry, Tyrese Campbell has been playing there. That was probably in the thinking to bring Andrew Mohamed-Ellie on at half time as well, who, as we all know, is a central defender by trade. So all of this lends itself to Norwich City coming here and trying to make themselves solid, trying to make themselves tough to beat. Do I like that? Not particularly. Can I see why they did it? Yes. Do I think it's the best for the position they're in? I think you can construct an argument to say that, given the context, given the defeat to Sunderland, the draw to Huddersfield, Stoke were in form, they've beaten Sunderland, they've beaten Blackburn, they should have beaten Middlesbrough. There is an argument, I'm not necessarily saying I agree with this, I'm just putting the argument to you, that what they needed to do here today, and this is obviously the view that David Wagner took, was to be solid, be compact, and to come away with something, move into the international break with something. I said at the start of this week I felt Norwich City needed 4 points. I stand by that. but the facts are they're still 3 points from the playoffs. So however you want to look at it in terms of feeling or emotion or whatever, however you want to look at it, they've got 8 games left to try and get themselves in that top 6. You may feel that that's a long way away. I feel that's a long way away, but it is still, those are the facts, and you can't argue with them. So whilst that possibility is there, they have to do all they can. And that's why I'm probably stood here maybe being a bit more reflective, and I don't want to say I'm sticking up for them because I'm certainly not doing that, but I think you can construct an argument as to the approach that they adopted here today, given the circumstances, the injuries, the lows, Stoke's form, all of those factors. I think you can understand why they played that way. Would I expect Norwich to play like that every week? No, because David Wagner has shown since he came into the building, he has a very specific way of playing. He wants Norwich to play a certain way. Today was about going direct. They almost completely cut up the build-up. They didn't really have a midfield. We didn't see much of Gabby Sarah or Kenny McLean. It was just about trying to get the ball forward quickly, play off second balls, be compact, even try and play on the counter-attack at times. We saw Angus Gunn sort of playing for time a little bit in the second half. All of these feeds into the narrative that David Wagner came here today not to get beat. And look, I think purely in terms of this season and expectations, that can feel incredibly disappointing. This was a Norwich squad that was supposed to be able to go to every single ground in this division and go toe-to-toe with teams, dominate teams with their quality and win matches. This was a squad assembled to win a championship title, and they've come, I don't want to be disrespectful to Stoke, but because they are in form, and as I said, I've put the arguments there, but I think as has been the case all season, you're left kind of wanting a little bit more from this group, and that is the problem, and that is why so many people aren't feeling that playoffs are a possibility, or why promotion isn't being viewed as a good thing, because increasingly it feels like this group needs a reset, and I've spoken about this before in all platforms, and I feel like every passing game is reaffirming that. And actually this performance kind of typifies where they are and where I think they will be. And I've said this a million times on these since David Wagner came in, before David Wagner came in, and again that performance today kind of summed it up. A lot of huffing and puffing, and I can see that continuing to the end of the season, but they are 5 minutes. Yeah, no worries. I'm getting a hurry up, so I'll bring this to an end pretty quickly. Where was I? So yeah, I think all of those narratives and those streams of narrative are going to be constructed, and you can argue those, absolutely. But I think in terms of in isolation, I can understand why David Wagner took the approach he took today, even if I don't necessarily agree with it. And I think deep down, as someone who plays the type of football that he doesn't really agree with it either. But he clearly felt the odds were stacked against Norwich City, the circumstances were weighed against them, and he decided to come here today and make sure they didn't lose. Was it attractive? No, but equally, they've gained a point actually from where they were in midweek. As I said, the facts are the facts, and the situation is the situation. They've got 8 games now to try and get into the top 6. I feel that's still a long shot. We shall see. In terms of the actual game itself, Josh Sargent had Norwich City's biggest chance after about 6 minutes. Crystal Solis played him through, kind of shrugged off the defender. Wonderful opportunity to try and score. Completely fluffed his lines, almost seemed to take a phantom touch, tried to push the ball in front of him and just got in a complete tangle. Ball was left behind him and he couldn't convert that. Then it was pretty much Angus Gunn against Stoke City. Forget Norwich City against Stoke City. He made 3 tremendous saves, a string of fine saves, a couple from Jacob Brown, one from Will Smallbone in the first half. There was an excellent bit of goalkeeping to claw away across. And again, he is the reason why Norwich City have left here with a point, because in terms of the contest, 90 minutes, Stoke were the better side. They played with more vigour, more intensity. Norwich looked tired. I think they probably felt tired. And that was the situation, and that is where they find themselves. And they've got a massive April now, games against Blackburn, Middlesbrough, Sheffield United when we come back from the break, that will define whether or not this group will finish in the top 6. And their record against the top 10 this season is not particularly great. And if they want to change the narrative, and that's what it's going to take from here, a shifting of the narrative, a changing of the status quo to get into that top 6, they're going to need to extract points, but not just singular points, multiple points from those games. They're going to have to win, in my view, probably 2 of those 3 to give themselves a real shot. If they lose all 3, season done, we can forget about it and we can all go home. If they win all 3, game on, and we can talk about the playoffs. So yeah, a little bit of a holding pattern one today. Again, Norwich played 4-4-2. They had a long throw. It was very direct. It wasn't particularly attractive. They came away with a point. probably feel a little bit underwhelmed by the whole thing. It wasn't a great game of football. You can construct an argument to say they did the right thing. You can construct an argument to say they did the wrong thing. I've presented you with why I think David Wagner took the decision that he did to be solid, to be robust, to essentially play not to lose. Alex Neil's quotes afterwards are pretty damning, and I would agree with them. Norwich shouldn't come to places like this with the squad they have in the Championship and play in that manner. But in the context and in the isolation, you can understand why they've done it. And that's where we are. And now we go into an international break. I'm going to get chucked out, so I better sign off. Thank you all very much for watching. Of course, plenty more coverage and analysis at pinken.com. Take a trial out for the Pinken Plus app as well. We really appreciate your support over there. And we'll see you on the other side at Sheffield United. Signing off from Stoke before I get chucked out. Thank you very, very much for watching.